We are now live.
I'd like to call the Thursday, July 23rd, 2026 Huntley Village Board meeting to order at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Benigno,
Present.
Trustee Barrett,
Present.
Trustee Pifko,
Present.
Trustee Walls,
Present.
Trustee Westberg,
Present.
Trustee Zadorowitz,
Here.
Village President Huff.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Item 4, we have a special presentation, and with that, I will turn it over to Chief Hooten.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have a promotion for Sergeant. I'll read a little bit about Sergeant Orsolini prior to swearing him in. Sergeant Orsolini was certified as a police officer in 2016 and has been employed with the Huntley Police Department since October 2021. Prior to his promotion, he served as both a patrol officer and a detective. During his assignment with the Investigations Division, Sergeant Orsolini earned a letter of commendation in recognition of his significant contributions to the division's exceptional work throughout 2025. He played a key role in implementing innovative technologies and investigative processes that enhanced the division's efficiency, improved investigative accuracy, and ensured the department remained at the forefront of emerging technologies in law enforcement. He also served as an active member of the Kane County Major Crimes Investigative Team, assisting with complex investigations throughout the county. Sergeant Orsolini has often received recognition for his dedication and professionalism in serving the residents of Huntley as well as other communities through several multi-jurisdictional cases. Since joining the Huntley Police Department, Sergeant Orsolini has consistently offered thoughtful ideas to improve our organization, enhance the service we provide, and strengthen our training. He shares his perspective respectfully and professionally and always has the best interests of the department and the community in mind. His ability to see the broader picture and then turn ideas into meaningful action will serve him well as a sergeant. His experience, knowledge, and commitment to continuous improvement will be invaluable as he helps develop our officers and prepare the next generation of leaders. I am proud to welcome Sergeant Orsolini to our supervisory team and look forward to the ideas, leadership, and perspective he brings to this role. I am confident he will have a positive and lasting influence on the department and the officers he leads. Joining him tonight is his wife, Sam, and his 2 kids, Lily and Robert, along with his parents, Mike and Diane. They all have continued to encourage and support him through this important process of his career. Thank you all for being here tonight and supporting him. Now let's do the oath of office.
I, Nick Orsolini, having been appointed to
The office of Police Sergeant
the office of Police Sergeant
of the Village of Huntley
of the Village of Huntley
in the counties of Kane and McHenry
in the counties of Kane and McHenry
in the state of Illinois,
in the state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Patrol Sergeant
the duties of the office of Patrol Sergeant
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
So I appreciate the opportunity and confidence of the village is entrusted with me. Yeah, just a high emotional day.
Dismissed. Thank you. Item 5, we've got public comments. Nobody has signed up for public comments. However, is there anybody from the public that wishes to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, our consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and may be approved and accepted by one motion with a roll call vote. If further discussion is needed, any member of the board may request that an item be moved off the consent agenda to items for discussion and consideration. Item 6.1, we've got approval of the July 9th, 2026 village board meeting minutes. 6.2 is approval of the July 23rd, 2026 bill list in the amount of $2,191,475.16. And 6.3, a resolution waiving water and sewer tap-on connection fees for 11498 Grove Street. Is there any questions, comments, concerns?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Westberg with the motion. And Zadorowitz with the second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Westberg.
Aye.
Trustee Barond.
Aye.
Trustee Zadorowitz.
Yes.
Trustee Pifko.
Aye.
Trustee Benigno.
Aye.
Trustee Walls.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 7, we've got items for discussion and consideration. Item 7.1, Tim Frisbee, I believe, signed in for or for the petitioner's comments. So if you want to come up to the table, that'll be fine. What we have is an ordinance approving the final plat of subdivision and final planned unit development, including any necessary relief for the construction of a new Dollar Tree retail store in Huntley Crossings, Phase 2, east of Illinois 47 and South Regency Parkway. Charlie?
Thank you, Mayor. You can see the location of the site on the aerial there just south of Tommy's Car Wash. To start, the request includes a final plat of subdivision. So this is re-subdividing the existing lots 9 and 10 in the Huntley Crossing subdivision. It'll essentially make the Dollar Tree lot 15 feet larger to the south by re-subdividing the lot and adding that 15 feet provides a lot with necessary for Dollar Tree. Lot 2, which you see in red, will be reserved for future development. It is worth noting the B3 zoning district, which is what these properties are zoned, require a minimum lot width of 200 feet and a minimum lot area of 80,000 square feet. Both of these lots, as they exist today, were granted relief. This is just, again, reiterating the relief that's necessary to relocate that lot line between the two properties. So then the final plat of subdivision, the board will recall you saw this previously as a concept in February. The project is very similar to what you saw in February, so I'll be brief on some of my comments here. Again, it's a 10,134 square foot Dollar Tree store, just over 1.5 acres for the size of the property, just south of Tommy's Car Wash. Dollar Tree, national brand with 8,000 stores across the country. So the site plan itself, access to the property, Route 47 is on the left. The private access drive is on the right to the east. There are two driveways accessing the property there. You see at the northeast corner and the southeast corner. Those provide the primary access to the property. Otherwise, the building setbacks, the location of the building meets the required building setbacks. The driveways and parking spaces you see all are compliant at 25-foot wide drive aisles, 10 by 19 parking spaces. Quick walk around the site, you see the dumpster enclosure at the northeast corner of the building, the two enclosures there. Front of the building, loading dock at the rear of the property, otherwise fairly straightforward. Proposed elevation is very similar to what you saw previously as a concept. Primary building materials, the red brick. They do have a dark brick, which makes up the corner of the front elevation as well as the center of the rear elevation. Then trash enclosure would be on the north side of the building. You see that dotted out, dashed out there on that elevation. It's worth noting the elevations maybe changed a little bit since you saw it in February. The Dollar Tree, again, it sticks out a little bit more. The rendering you saw at that time, the Dollar Tree signage blended into that wall. They've now modified that slightly, so it's got a bronze return, so it sticks out, pops out a little better than the previous rendering that was provided. Wall signage that is proposed, 2 wall signs, one on the front of the building, one on the rear of the building, each being 101 square feet. And then the monument sign, which would be located at the northwest corner of that parking lot, 10 feet tall, brick base, brick surround to match the building, and that's a compliant size. Otherwise, landscaping, mix of landscaping throughout the site, 20 new shade trees are proposed, 20 new evergreen trees and 6 ornamental trees provided throughout the site. There is existing landscaping already within the stormwater detention, which is between the parking lot or the proposed parking lot and Route 47 in this area here. That will remain. Otherwise, plantings have been placed along the perimeter of the lot to provide parking lot screening. And then at the foundation of the building, you see that on the north elevation as well as on the west elevation and the entirety of the south elevation. And then additional landscaping here along the Tommy's Car Wash. These are the vacuums on the south side of the Tommy's Car Wash, so additional landscaping to help screen those vacuums. Only element of relief that's requested related to the setbacks for the parking lot are the setbacks for the landscape buffer. 10 feet is required in the B3 district. They're proposing 6 feet on either. That's in order to accommodate the two-way traffic for the drive aisles and the parking. Lighting is matching the fixtures used for Tommy's Car Wash as well as Bell Tire. Very similar height and the exact same style of fixture. You see the proposed building mounted fixture. We did add a condition that that be modified to a decorative style fixture. And then a quick summary of the requested relief. Again, the minimum lot size, that modification for the B3 district requiring 200 feet of lot width, 80,000 square feet of lot area. The signage, again, 2 wall signs. They are requesting to exceed the permitted square footage allowed. In this case, they're allowed 80 square feet based upon the width of the building. They're requesting a total of 202 square feet for the 2 wall signs, each sign being 101 square feet. And then the location of that rear wall sign not facing a street right of way. And finally, the landscaping, they are requesting to that be approved as presented. Again, noting the setbacks on the north and south property lines being 6 feet rather than 10. And then they are requesting to provide, excuse me, fewer trees and shrubs than proposed. They've got the 2 curb cuts, which minimizes some of the perimeters they could landscape. And then the street frontage plantings, the commercial design guidelines require 40 shrubs. They've got 36. And again, a lot of this is having to do with not only the curb cuts on that rear access drive, but also that existing stormwater detention that is already in place along the frontage of the property. Otherwise, as I mentioned, the board reviewed this in February. Comments primarily focused on the signage. As I noted, they did add the bronze returns, 5-inch returns, so those pop better on that dark brick elevation. Also, the relocation of the accessible parking spaces, those have been relocated to be closer to the front entrance. And then the discussion also centered around the installation of bollards at the front entrance. So they've done that with the ADA accessible parking spaces. Those signs have bollards. And then there is a condition that they do add additional bollards adjacent to that front entrance. Plan Commission reviewed this at their meeting on July 13th, did recommend approval by a vote of 6-0, subject to 16 conditions of approval. I won't read through these all, I'll just highlight the ones that are in bold. Condition 4 is related to the monument sign that does need to be moved slightly to the south to be 10 feet away from the north property line. Condition 5 is regarding the installation of landscaping at the base of the monument sign. That must be shown, and that will be reviewed at permit. Bicycle rack, condition 6 must be added to the site plan. Condition 7 relates to the installation of the bollards at the front of the building. Condition 8 is regarding directional signs. At this point in time, there is no directional signs proposed. However, if they are added at some point in the future, they must have a brick base to match the monument sign, and they are restricted in height and area as dictated by the zoning ordinance. Then condition 11, the proposed wall-mounted light fixtures, again requesting a decorative style sconce to replace the ones that are proposed. And then condition 13, the 6 shade trees that are shown on that north property line, we've requested that those be replaced with evergreen trees, again, just to provide some better screening of the Tommy's vacuums that are on that south property line. With that, that leads me to the actual request of this evening. That is a motion of the village board for approving an ordinance for final plat of subdivision, as well as final planned unit development, including the necessary relief for the construction of a new Dollar Tree store. With that, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Charlie. Now you see the petitioners are in attendance. Thank you for coming. Do you have anything you'd like to add to staff's presentation?
No, that was very well done.
Okay. Board's got questions, comments, concerns? Who wants? Trustee Pifko?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I just want to thank you guys for listening to us and changing those things, especially that dollar sign. Jeez, I can actually read it now. Welcome to Huntley.
Thank you. Trustee Benigno?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Trustee Waltz?
Nothing to add as well.
Trustee Westberg?
Yeah, it's simple. If you build it, they will come. Thank you for coming to Huntley.
Trustee Barrett?
I also want to thank you for your interest in Huntley and for listening to what and reacting to what we had suggested, particularly like the look of the building with the coloring the red brick and the gray, and really like the green that's setting off the signage. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Trustee Zadorowitz?
Everything looks good, thank you.
All right. With that, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got Benigno with the motion and Pifko with the second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Benigno?
Aye.
Trustee Walls?
Yes.
Trustee Westberg?
Aye.
Trustee Barrett?
Aye.
Trustee Zadorowitz?
Yes.
Trustee Pifko?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I didn't want to jump the gun before it was official, but welcome to Huntley and thank you for your interest in our community.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Sounds good.
I did want to mention, the question was asked at the last meeting in February. The windows on the side, somebody wanted to know if those were faux windows. Those are actually glazed windows. I did find that out. Was it you that asked that? Okay.
Probably.
Okay. I wanted to mention that to you.
Thank you.
He's a window guy, so it's probably him.
I can tell.
I'm the nitpicker.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got item 7.2 is just discussion, and it's the police pension fund overview and presentation by Foster and Foster. Christie?
Thank you, Mayor. Starting off, this discussion will provide a background in the police pension fund, outline the purpose of the actuarial report, and highlight key financial statistics. Heidi is here today. She is the consultant actuary with Foster and Foster and will review the actuarial evaluation report with the Village of Huntley Police for the Village of Huntley Police Pension Fund. So although the pension obligations are not bonded debt, they are still considered liabilities on the village's financial statements. Continuing to fully fund the police pension will reduce this net pension liability. With the village's recent credit rating upgrade to AAA, S&P noted in its rating outlook that our pension liability is low relative to other Illinois municipalities, which is one of their key factors supporting their rating upgrade from AA+ to the AAA. This chart illustrates the increase in the village's recommended police pension contribution since 2019, rising from approximately $855,000 in 2019 to the recommended contribution of $2 million, just over $2 million in 2027, that just a few hours ago was recommended and approved by the Village of Huntley Police Pension Board. This represents over the years about a 10.9% increase on average. This next slide illustrates the police pension fund tax levy compared to the village's total property tax levy. Because the village has chosen to fund the police pension fund to 100%, exceeding the state's mandate of 90% funding requirement by 2040, the police pension levy has become a larger percentage of the village's overall property tax levy. But as we saw with the AAA rating, fully funding and properly funding the police pension obligation does have significant benefits to the village's overall financial health. Last slide I wanted to highlight before turning the floor over to Heidi is the market returns in the police pension over the last 5 years. 4 out of the 5 years have been positive market returns, with the exception of 2022, with the highest market return of 2025 at 17.53%. I'll now turn the floor over to Heidi, who will review the actuary report in greater detail and explain how these figures are calculated.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you to the board for allowing me to come here tonight and walk you through the report. There are a lot of pages here for my report. I am not going to go over all of them, so I will make it clear. If you feel like falling asleep quickly later, peruse those at your will. There's plenty there to read. But I am going to touch on some highlights for you to help you understand what you're looking at. I'm going to turn you to page 121 of the meeting packet. This is the summary page. So this is your one-pager. If you need to remember anything tonight, this is the page. This is a summary of our funding report. There are 2 reports in your meeting packet. The first one is the funding report. This focuses on how we determine the calculation of the annual contribution. There's a second report that follows this that's for the accounting report. As I understand it, you've already gone through the audit process, and those numbers were incorporated into the audit. There's some different methodologies that need to be employed there. The underlying assumptions are the same. The biggest difference between the GASB report, which is that second accounting report, and the funding report that I'm going to focus on tonight is that the assets are smoothed for funding purposes to eliminate some market volatility from the contribution calculation. For GASB, that's a mark-to-market approach. So whatever the market value of assets are is what you're going to see there. That will cause a significant difference in funded status. So when somebody asks us what the funded status is, the answer unfortunately does depend on what you're talking about and what your audience is. So in this case, we will focus on funding tonight though, and this page is the bottom line on top. We do lead with funded status here just to acclimate you to the report a bit. The left-hand column will be this year's numbers. We do have the right-hand column there so that you could see the impact year over year of some of the changes that have happened in the fund year over year, and you could see how things have changed. At the top with funded status, you could see we're going in the right direction. The funded status has continued to increase gradually here. That's a good thing to see. We're moving in the right direction. Fortunately, Huntley is a village that has always taken the actuarial report very seriously and tried to contribute those numbers, and it's paying off. You're seeing an improvement in funded status year over year. The contribution requirements are there in the middle. Now, there was a significant increase year over year, about 10.7%. That was largely driven by a few things. There was some unfavorable experience in the fund. That unfavorable experience was largely driven by salary increases that were a little bit higher than we had anticipated in our assumptions. That was offset, however, by a gain in the market. So as you saw from a couple slides ago, market returns were quite favorable last year. Even on a smooth basis, when we mitigate for some of that volatility in the market, even that was coming in at a favorable 7.84% versus our 7% assumption. In addition, we did have a status change of one person, moved from terminated vested to disabled, and then the head count has gone up. So when you have more officers accruing benefits, you need to pay for those as they're earning those benefits. So we had 4 additional officers in the fund year over year, and those folks all are earning more benefits in the fund now. I'm going to pause briefly on page 122 of the meeting packet here, focusing more on the assumption and method changes here. You'll note that we have made one change to the methodology year over year and one change to the assumptions. The change to the methodology will have an impact starting next year, but what we've done is update from a funding policy where we were trying to become 100% funded by the year 2040 to move to an open amortization method. What that basically means is any unfunded actual accrued liability, any funded status shortfall, to the extent you're not at 100% funded, you have an unfunded actual accrued liability that needs to be funded over time to try to get to that 100% level. Instead of funding to an end date of 2040, we've updated this to be an open amortization methodology, which means basically every year we look at whatever the unfunded is and we amortize that. It's sort of effectively a mortgage that the village has to the police pension fund. We amortize that mortgage over 15 years. That basically spreads that out, spreads that unfunded actual accrued liability out over the next 15 years of taxpayers to pay that off. Then next year when we recalculate your valuation, instead of dropping that down to 14 years, we reach out and we grab one more year of taxpayers over which to spread that unfunded accrued liability amortization payment out over. So we're basically making sure we're offering as much intergenerational taxpayer equity as we can by always grabbing one more year of taxpayers each year in that calculation. It ensures that there's some principal being paid off and that unfunded will reduce with time. It does slow the pace to get to full funding, but it does in effect offer some equity to your tax base, that we're not asking the next 15 years of taxpayers to pay that off, and then taxpayers after year 15 are off the hook for all of that. So that's in effect what that methodology change has. The other piece is the payroll growth assumption. So most public pension funds do use a payroll growth assumption. What the effect of this assumption is it says when we amortize that unfunded actual accrued liability, each year it will increase by the payroll growth assumption, all else being equal. So if all of our assumptions exactly came true, if I liken this to a mortgage on a house, if you had a mortgage and your mortgage was tied to your salary, the beginning of your mortgage, you're paying a much lower, say you're paying the same percentage of salary each year towards your mortgage, say it's 20%. At the beginning of your mortgage, 20% of salary is a lot lower than 30 years later when you're at the last payment of your mortgage. If you're still paying 20% of your salary, that payment is much larger. The effect of that is that it's a backloaded method. The early payments are smaller, the later payments are higher. So a payroll growth assumption is doing exactly that. It's sort of assuming that you're paying the same percentage of department payroll each year, and then every year you're expecting department payroll to grow up by 3%, so that therefore the mortgage payment goes up by 3%. It used to be 3.25%, which you could see would have the effect of assuming lower department salary now and a higher in the future, and therefore muting that earlier contribution and lowering it. So by lowering the payroll growth assumption, what we've done is stabilize that payment a little bit, so the slope is not as steep. The early payments will be a little bit higher, but those later payments will come down a bit. So it's stabilized that contribution over time as well. So bringing that down is a healthier thing for the fund, but it does have some short-term higher contribution impact. Okay, on page 123 of the meeting packet, this is getting into a lot of numbers here. I'll highlight a couple of things. We perform what's called snapshot valuations. So that means we collect data on January 1st. Whoever's in the fund on that date, whatever their status is on that date is what is included here. So if somebody retires on January 5th, that will be inactive in this valuation. We will pick them up as retirement next year. If you look at the head counts here, we've seen year-over-year changes. You can see the actives went up by 3 heads. We had 6 new entrants. We lost 3 folks through termination. And then you can see that disability reclassification from 2 to 3 in that disabled line. You're a relatively young fund, so a higher percentage of your population is active than inactive at this point in time. Over time, that'll evolve, but at this point, you'd be considered on the younger end of funds. The other thing I'll point out here in the middle of the page are the assets. So the relationship between the actuarial value and market value is significant. Market value is what you've already heard from your auditor in the audit numbers. Actuarial value is that smooth value. So we assume a return of 7% per year in your fund. If you return higher than 7%, that's a gain. If you return less than that, it's a loss. We only reflect 20% of those gains and losses each year, and that's how we arrive at the actuarial value. Last year, your actuarial value was higher than market value. That tells me we had deferred losses out last year we weren't reflecting. That relationship has reversed this year. Your actuarial value is much lower than the market value, about 7% lower. That's because of those really positive returns that Christy showed you a few slides back. The market was good. We're holding back some of those returns. Effectively, think of it as a rainy day fund. So if the market does tank, we have some cushion in there and your contribution won't spike significantly. On page 8, we get into the funded status here at the bottom of that leftmost, I'm sorry, not page 8, 124 of your meeting packet, page 8 of my report. Near the bottom of that column, you see a number of $38.9 million. This is our funding target. If you had $38.9 million in the fund today, you would be 100% funded. That's ultimately what our target is. That's how our funding policy is developed. But when we compare that to your actuarial value of assets, that unfunded actuarial accrued liability that I was talking about amortizing down is $14.6 million. So that's a component of your contribution calculation. On page 10, we actually lay out all of the details of that contribution calculation. Sorry, page 126. Page 126 of our report. In that first column there, if you were fully funded, your annual contribution would be the normal cost. So here we have applied interest to all of these numbers. They don't happen on January 1st. They happen later in the year, so they have been interest adjusted. The normal cost is the value of the actives earning the pension benefits. The administrative expenses, just the cost of maintaining the fund each year. And then we would subtract from that the expected member contributions of here it's estimated about $460,000. That's the 9.91% of salary that the police officers pay towards their own pension benefits. If you were 100% funded, that would be your ongoing annual village obligation. However, as I mentioned, we have that unfunded actuarial accrued liability amortization payment. That's the $1.3 million there near the middle. 66% of the recommended amount of $2,041,107 is attributable to just kind of catching up with that unfunded amortization payment. Page 127 of the board packet will show you how that contribution changed year over year. So there was a lot of different items that contributed to the ultimate increase of about $198,000. A big one was the change in the normal cost. So more people are accruing. You went from 37 to 40 actives. That led to about an $85,000 increase in that contribution. So every time you add heads, it's going to be about a net $10,000 to $15,000, depending on the age of those employees hired, that will add more cost to the fund. So it's netted here by that change in member contributions because they are also contributing 9.91% salary, but in that ballpark, you could expect some increase. The administrative expenses here, we do fund those on a pay-as-you-go basis. So about $50,000, this increase is just because there was more fees to the fund last year, likely due to disability events and such. Those will cost more money. Next year, I would expect that number to come down. And then that increase in the amortization payment due to the payroll growth assumption. If all of my assumptions come true exactly, I expect this number to go up by about $43,000, all else being equal. So if all my assumptions come true, it naturally would go up. And then we did have that disability status, that termination TV that was converted to a disability that caused about a $65,000 increase. So a few events in the fund that specifically contributed to this increase. And the last page I'll point out to you is on page 131 of the packet here. There is a graph here that shows you the history of the funding progress. I always like to show this, and I think the story here is pretty positive. You know, while there is a little bit of up and down in some of those years due to various, market returns, we did make a few assumption changes over time. You can see on the back end of this from 2023 to 2026, we are generally improving. Each year we're seeing that go up. I give the village a lot of credit here for this. That's because the numbers that we're providing here are being taken seriously here and are being funded properly here. And so that will ultimately cause this trend to continue. The only other thing I will point out on page 160 of the board packet, we're going into the GASB report here briefly because I do want to highlight that funded status difference that you might note. This is the GASB report, and this is the numbers from there. You can see the funded status there for this year was 68% funded. That does differ quite significantly from funding at 62.4%, and that's because of that 7% difference in the actuarial value of assets versus the market value. So if you're ever asked about the funded status of your pension fund, it really depends on who's asking and for what purpose, but from a market value perspective, 68% is the funded status. So with that, are there any questions for me about the actuarial report?
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Administrative costs went double.
Some of that, like Heidi mentioned, was due to a disability application last year. Independent medical examinations do have to be completed to assist with that process. And as she said, those can be a higher dollar amount. So it would likely change next year in 2026 with just annual IMEs versus first-time medical evaluation. So that was a significant portion of the change that Heidi mentioned.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none. Thank you for your time and great explanation.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Chris, you got anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you so much for coming out, Heidi.
Of course, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 7.3 is not taking place this evening. Item 7.4, we've got transmittal of the fiscal year 26 second quarter police department report. Chief Hooten.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm excited to share with you our second quarter information for what the successes that we've had and what we continue to work on. The first one, I will start with personnel. As I mentioned during the first quarter, we joined the McHenry County Police Testing Consortium. That took place on June 7th with 4 other agencies. With our new police commission, we had interviewed 7 candidates from that test and established an eligibility list with 4 officers on it. On Monday, a former officer, Adam Danowski, was sworn back in as a lateral. He came back to us from Alabama, so we're excited to have him. And we look forward to him being on solo patrol in a few weeks after he reestablishes himself with all the new streets and businesses that have come since he left. So as of now, we have 1 vacancy in the patrol division, which if you remember last year, we were down 4 or 5, so this is very good news. You all just sat through Sergeant Orsolini's promotion, so that fills our empty patrol sergeant position. He'll be a great addition to our sergeants. One of our other sergeants, Scott Sullivan, completed the 22nd annual COPS Cycle Across America ride. He rode over 300 miles from Edwardsville to Chicago with a bunch of other officers, supporting families of fallen officers. So this is the 2nd year he's done it, and he always comes back with great stories and memories. So he plans to continue doing that next year, and rumor had it there might be a team from Huntley going down there with other officers. So that will be exciting. And then finally, for personnel, Deputy Chief Kevin Keene completed a 3-week Senior Management Institute for Police program in Boston. He was out there learning executive management and leadership tools and getting resources from people in his position throughout the country. So it was a great experience for him, and we were happy to have him go and bring back some good knowledge. Department training, next up. Spring and summer is our busy time for training. All sworn staff went through 8 hours of firearms qualification and drills, along with a 4-hour rifle qualification. Those, as you can imagine, were outside and in the steaming hot weather, so it was good training for the officers. They also did a 3-hour emergency medical training, which trains officers on medical procedures during critical incidents. We do things such as putting on tourniquets and packing wounds, like gunshot wounds. We have equipment that has fake blood spurting out at us, so it's real, trying to stop the wound. So it's great training for the officers. One of the exercises that we do with a partner, we have a minute to put a tourniquet on our arm and crank it down so that you basically lose feeling, and then put it on our partner's leg. And you have to do that in a minute, which every officer did. So that was great. Officer Lanute did some DUI enforcement training for officers and the community, and we proactively did a roll call training in response to teen takeover events that we've seen throughout the news, throughout the nation. We haven't had any here, but we want a patrol to be prepared in case we do. And we also had a couple community presentations on scam and safety. presentations at our daycare, some of our daycare facilities. Community engagement during the summer. We can get out a lot more and have some fun with community members differently than the colder weather. So some of the things that we've done this quarter, we hosted our annual junior CPA program for middle school students. We participated in the school district's Raider Reads at the library. Starbucks again joined us for juice with our Coffee with a Cop at Dikey Park. We kicked off the Tuesday night concert season with the Adoptable Dog Showcase, where we partnered with the Animal Animal House Shelter to show off adoptable dogs to concert goers. So that's always fun to have the dogs out there. And then for the first time this summer, we hosted Hooked Up Fishing Club at 2 local ponds. It was extremely hot out there the day I was fishing, but I didn't care about the heat because I got a big one. So I'm gonna learn to tell a fish story that the fish was this big, but as you can see in the picture, it was not. But some middle school kids taught me how to cast a line. At first I said to throw it out there, and I was told it's casting a reel. So we had a lot of fun out there, and officers that were on duty knew this was happening, so they brought their own fishing poles and came out to catch some fish with us. Onto our performance metrics. We continue to make steady progress on our annual goals. Work has remained active across the department with several initiatives that continue to be underway and more projects starting to meet these metrics. A few of our performance metrics are up here to see. The first one, our community policing events. We're on pace to meet our goal of 105 events. Officers have attended several neighborhood block parties and have given various community presentations. One of our big community events is coming up, our National Night Out on August 4th. We are kicking it off with our annual police and fire softball game in Sun City at 3 p.m., different time from last year. And then heading to a new area near the small shops in that gathering area where from 5 to 7 we'll have a bigger celebration. We won't be encroached by the concert goers, so we can spend more time. We have various local businesses coming and partnering with us, so we have some games, some kid activities, drone presentation, and more. So we encourage everyone to come out and hang out with us that night. One of our other metrics, our traffic crash rate is lower than it was this time last year, which is something we have actively been working on and monitoring high crash areas and increasing traffic enforcement through our IDOT grant. So safe roadways continue to be one of our top priorities. The last metric on the screen I wanted to discuss is the subscribers to Everbridge. I talked last quarter that we were stopping our use of Nixle, and so initially we had our target as 10,000 subscribers. Since we got rid of Nixle, where the majority of our subscribers were linked to, we've reallocated the target to be 3,000 and hope that we can achieve that by the end of the year. We keep having a push for it, and on National Night Out, we're going to have some giveaways. If people sign up on the spot, they can put their name in a raffle and win a prize. So hoping that that generates some more people to sign up to receive our updates and notices when there's roadway closures and things like that. So it's hard to believe that we're already halfway through this year. As we move into the second half of 2026, we remain focused on achieving our goals, advancing department priorities, and providing the highest level of service to our community. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the police department?
Just one real quick one, Chief. Did Lanute stop a DUI yet on his bike? I know that's his goal, but.
It is his goal. I don't believe he's done that this summer yet.
Okay.
His shift's been kind of crazy, so I just asked him the other night. He has not had much time on the bike.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, thank you for your in-depth report for the second quarter of the Huntley Police Department. We don't need to do anything, right? That's just there. All right, item 7.5, we have the fiscal year 26 second quarter report for Public Works and Engineering. And Tim, you got 10 minutes. I'm just kidding. Three? It's like public comment.
Thank you, Tim. No.
How many slides does he have?
The clock's ticking.
Well, thank you, Mayor and the Village Board. It's certainly an active time in Huntley Public Works, and I'd like to demonstrate that by starting with a review of the 2026 Public Works Department goals to date. Starting with the Kreitzer Road project, I believe this is the first occasion that we've had to celebrate this project and the bid and the IDOT award together. And being that this is the largest public improvement by the village in our history, I'm really considering this a legacy project for myself and really for all of us that will really have a visible and meaningful impact to our residents and to the region. And I'm very proud to be a part of that, and also to helping in securing approximately $12.5 million or 80% of the cost in external funding. A couple key points on this project to date. You might recall we were notified in March of the April letting. And so Dan Ruggles was really stellar in leading the task of removing approximately 25 very large trees and using contractor help to do that. But that was in March prior to the April 1 Corps of Engineers deadline for those tree removals and helping us to maintain the schedule for that project. You've seen the dry utility relocates, they're underway. NICOR is near complete. ComEd is working on the service drops now from the south to the north, but their schedule has clearly been impacted by the regional storms throughout the area, hoping they come back soon to finish that work. And then Comcast will follow immediately when ComEd's complete and out of their way. We're still targeting a fall completion for that dry utility work. We've had meetings with the contractor, William Charles Construction, a pre-construction meeting. They would like to mobilize in the area of the railroad tracks to complete that box culvert work near the tracks. But they're awaiting the UP Railroad permits as well as the flaggers for the railroad, and they're scheduled 6 weeks to 8 weeks out. So we're waiting to hear from them, as well as the fabrication and delivery of the box culvert itself. However, we're still hopeful that that work can start yet this fall, and the contractor can mobilize and start that work. If it gets to be to the point where we won't be able to really have any progress prior to the winter months, it might be more intelligent to wait until next spring. But we'll monitor that and we'll report to the board as it progresses. Work is well underway on the $7 million fleet services facility with 85% of the underground utilities complete. The building concrete, the concrete in the building envelope is complete, and wall framing, as you can see down Main Street, is being erected. Darren Allison has been key in managing this project, the day-to-day, and he worked with the contractor to identify a savings of about $15,000 by having Public Works haul stone to fill the unsuitable soils that were removed under the foundation and the driveway. So that was a key savings for that project, and my future quarterly reports will continue to monitor and report on this project. Dave Billings, he's been working to bring the much anticipated Well 13 and water treatment plant to 95% or more complete. At this point, the site work was intentionally delayed that allowed the construction of the roadways and site grading by the developer in Stetson Park, and that was for the well site then to tie into. That work is complete, and so now the remainder of the site work, including the fencing, restoration, and paving, is anticipated to be complete in the next 3 weeks, while the punch list work is being completed internal to the water treatment plant. So we're targeting a final completion at the end of August and then We'd like to schedule a ribbon cutting to follow that, so stay tuned. Adrian Pino, Chief Wastewater Operator, is heading up the $4 million wastewater treatment plant improvement project. Two key components of that project, as we've discussed in the past, are the West Wastewater Treatment Plant UV system replacement, and then on the next slide is the East Wastewater Treatment Plant Motor Control Center replacement. Design is wrapping up on those projects, and we expect to advertise for bids in August, and we're targeting a September bid award with construction starting in the fall. And this project will carry into 2027 as well. It's just a picture of the motor control centers that were circa 1978 and well past their useful life, time to replace. Jeremy Corbeil, he's been managing the phase 1 of the MCHVAC project, including the thermostat, VAV, and fan-powered box control improvement work that's been taking place. The units, including the screening that you see on the right, those will be replaced in the fall under milder weather conditions when we come to the shutdowns and have more temperate conditions internal to the building. And then the FY27 budget would be presented with the phase 2 that includes replacing and rebuilding the internal air distribution equipment, and then also the flat roof replacements as outlined in purple on that exhibit on the left. Those 5 or 6 locations there, all those flat roofs would be replaced. The Route 47 overhead utility burial project is being completed in partnership with the Rush Trucking redevelopment. Village consultants have completed the design of the underground conduit infrastructure work, as well as coordinated with the 4 dry utility companies for those agreements. The conduit project has been bid, and the dry utility companies are expected to complete their agreements in August. Once staff has the full cost model, including the Rush Trucking cost participation, we will come back to the village board for award consideration. Work is expected to start in the fall, and that work would carry over into 2027 as well. Moving into our department programs, with 132 miles of roadway and growing, our target is, you've heard this before, about 6.5 to 7 miles of resurfacing every year to maintain that 5% per year or stay on a 20-year cycle for resurfacing. So we have resurfaced about 28 miles of roadway in the last 4 years at a cumulative price tag of over $14 million, as you see in that table. The last several years, a share of the efforts have been concentrated in Sun City to transition the purple-colored roadways as seen in the exhibit and representing the 20-year age to the green, which would represent the less than 5-year age. Every year we provide, you can see the couple of shots there of the presentations, we provide the overview of the program to the Sun City Neighborhood Advisory Council before the work begins, and that establishes the expectations and what they can expect through the construction. And then we also this year met with the Neighborhood 36 independently, which is one of the neighborhoods where work was performed. This effort then translates into a pavement condition index, or a PCI, which is used as a metric to score the overall pavement condition. A PCI of 56 to 100 is fair, satisfactory, or good. The village PCI is currently trending at 63, which we can continue to maintain as long as we continue that resurfacing of 6.5 to 7 miles or 5% of road annually. As of now, 54% of the village roads have a PCI of 56, a score of fair or better. But I think more glaring is the over 35% have a rating of good. And that's really representative of the investment that we've made into this program the last several years, certainly within the last 5. So kudos to everybody on that. The LED streetlight replacement program to date, about 2,628 high-pressure sodium fixtures have been upgraded to LED, and the program is scheduled for completion this year when Talamore mainlines streetlight replacements are completed. Using in-house public Works Buildings and Ground staff has saved the village about $1.4 million in labor. And then combined with the ComEd incentives, the total savings would be about 1.8 million. Streetlight outages have seen a significant drop with the LED conversions, and we're trending at the 99% of streetlights in service at any given time. So a big improvement from what we've had about 10 years ago. The Parkway tree pruning has been a very successful program for Public Works. In 2026, a village contractor pruned nearly 2,200 Parkway trees, and then Public Works staff pruned over 430 to date. The middle table on this slide represents all of the data analytics, the cost analytics that goes into maintaining our status with the Tree City USA and the Growth Award. So quite a bit goes into that. Much of the work that Public Works does to maintain the services in the village goes on behind the scenes. And so we've really made an intentional effort to engage with the community, whether it's interacting with the high school students, providing tours of our water, wastewater facilities, showcasing at Touch a Truck events, or communicating project-specific details to the public. The original high-impact performance metric goal of 2 was centered on just only Touch a Truck events. So we decided to include other community engagement activities, so the goal would be adjusted up next year to account for that. That's why we're so much above that. 8 Ring cameras have been installed in the downtown to provide video monitoring. The Ring brand was selected based on they provided a relatively inexpensive and immediate option, while broader security initiatives are currently being planned out. This slide shows the resolution and then the vantage view from each of the cameras. The Ring cameras were able to be installed below the tree canopy in the square that would help limit obstruction. So I think you can see here the visibility and view from those is pretty good. So moving into our high impact performance measures, a couple points I want to point out on this slide. The water gallons per capita per day, that's a very valuable metric to understand our water usage. A commonly accepted metric for this is 100. This is what the EPA uses as well. In the village, we're currently trending at 71 gallons per capita per day, which is below the standard, obviously. This is representative of our relatively new and a very tight water system with few to no leaks. Of course, this value will go up after the third quarter water usage, indicative of increased outdoor water use in the warmer weather months. However, we expect to continue trending in that 80 range, which provides a net positive for our water infrastructure needs. Less usage translates to less infrastructure needs, translates to less capital costs up front. And so again, the 80 is a very good metric for us. In terms of the MS4 storm sewer outfall inspections, a engineering intern is typically tasked with the annual outfall inspections. That program is mostly complete for this year. She's on to school here in a few weeks, so we're wrapping that up. A report is then generated of all the outfalls, and work orders can be prioritized for any necessary corrective action that's identified from those inspections. And those outfall inspections are a requirement of the IEPA MS4 program. So it is very valuable that we hire that intern every year to complete that. Public Works has completed 2 village-wide street sweeper cycles of the target of 4. The remaining programs on this list are underway and will be reported on in quarter 3. We plan to wrap those other programs up here in July. 13 miles of the total 194-mile sidewalk network have been inspected this year for potential trip hazards, meeting the 2026 target. The sidewalk saw cutting work has been completed, and then the replacement work is currently underway. Another point on this slide is the MXU replacement program. It is underperforming, to date at 175 of the 1,200 target. We've met with the water group, and we do have plans in place to increase the place of the replacement in Q3 to get back on track of that 1,200. And this is the last slide. The fleet repair costs are trending on target through Q2 with just over the target of 3% of the overall repairs outsourced. And then we're able to maintain the fleet repair work orders and costs and keep our fleet operational, mainly due to the emphasis given to the equipment replacement program budget over the last several years. So thank you for that. And finally, Mayor, before I turn it back to you, I'd like to thank additional Public Works admin staff for assisting with the HIPAA analytics, including Jason Irvin, Peter DiAgostino, Maggie Dar, and James Williams for the GIS exhibits. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your report, Tim. Has anybody got questions, comments for Mr. Farrell? Keeping our town rolling. Thank you. You and your team.
Thank you.
Takes a village, as they say. With that, we've got village attorney's report, but Betsy's not here, so if you got questions of council, you'll have to wait till next meeting. 9, village manager's report.
I just have one comment. I'm extremely proud of the 3 departments that presented this evening. The mayor and I were talking a little bit as you were going through the presentations, right? This gives the board and the public an opportunity to really see what goes on with these groups of departments, and the way it's presented is extremely user-friendly and readable. So I just wanted to mention that, and it was our goal as we rolled into 2026 to bring this forward and share what all of the good work that's going on here. So job well done.
Any questions of Dave? Seeing none, village president's report. We got National Night Out on Tuesday, August 4th, 5 to 7. Shops on Main, as Chief said. Softball game out at Eakin Fields. Is that still called Eakin Fields? I think it is. 3 o'clock. Vito, is that correct?
That is correct.
And
No longer Eakin Field, it's Veterans Field.
Veterans Field. See, I knew there was a change and I couldn't remember, so thank you for straightening me out on that. Appreciate it. And then we got,
Don't do it again.
then we got a concert in the square following that event. Then also Movie in the Park has been postponed till Friday, August 7th due to the heat and Canadian wildfire smoke, I believe, that was in the air last Friday. So that'll be starting at 6, and that's at Parasec Park. So, and the movie will begin at approximately 8:15. So that's what I got. Anything else? Anybody got questions of me?
I don't have a question to you, but I just wanted to make a comment that the 3 department reports this evening, I think, demonstrate why Huntley is a successful place that it is. They demonstrate what it takes to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all our departments, as always, so that's what makes it happen. Any unfinished business? Seeing none, any new business? Seeing none, no action on exec. I'll look for a motion to close.
So moved.
Pifko with the motion and Barrett with the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. We're out at 8:04.